Welcome to a short of the financial griot. We're just going to be talking about life a little bit and just to kind of give you, at least I like to give people some context of what's going on in my head, what I see going on in the future, and what I think we could do a better job at. For one thing, my wife the other day, I guess this month. Yeah, this month. Man, the things been going on so quick, you forget what day you're in sometimes. We just came from the Albuquerque trip where we tried to go see some hot air balloons. It failed. It was raining. Balloons were wet. They didn't go up in the air. It was pretty much a wash, pun intended. But we were able to eventually drive down. Well, my wife, to be honest, to be fair, she's not the most like, if she doesn't get her way, she completely unravels eventually. That's just the way it is.
I'm the
Eventually,
same way.
she
I
starts
respect
like,
my
I'm
wife.
like, I'm very much perspective for driven because we're not like people that don't have enough money to redo these experiences. We're not the people that don't have an opportunity that we can't do it again at some point. Even if we don't get to do it, who cares? Because these are 1 in a million opportunities. Not a lot of people get to do them anyways, right? So I'm always in that frame of mind of pure gratitude. Like it's not that serious. I'm out here. If I'm already somewhere, you ain't gonna catch me frowning and being honest and happy. That's just not me. I'm just gonna show up. I'm just gonna be me. I'm just gonna be cool about it, and I'm just gonna enjoy the festivities, enjoy people around, and then I go home because I'm a homebody. This is me. In that moment, if I'm already outside, I'm outside. After that, we deviated some of the plan. We went to Santa Fe that night, which was amazing. It was really cool. And then the next day, we decided to go all the way down to El Paso and also White Sands. When we were down in El Paso, we ended up going across the border to Mexico. I actually never been to Mexico, so it was actually very interesting that we slid in real quick for like a good 30 minutes and we slid out like it was cool. We spent more time in the line getting back to the US than it was actually in Mexico itself, which makes no sense. So when we got back, my wife was still panicking because she think we weren't going to make it to White Sands. She wanted to get these photos. I'm like, it's not that serious. Let's stop trying to live like you see people on social media. It will mess you up. I can't curse on this podcast, but it will jack up your life. If everything you think is about perfection, it will really ruin your experiences, ruin your life. Because when we went there to White Sands, eventually because we went there later, whatever water was really dried up. So it's, like wet sand is the worst type of sand you don't want to be there. I've been in wet sand. She doesn't know that, but I'm like, you don't want to be in wet sand. You want to be in the location when it's raining and you're at wet sand. You don't want this at all. Like allow God to navigate you to where you're going to go, enjoy your life. We had great barbecue. We saw some great things. And then we eventually got to we got there. We got there. She was still a little bit unhappy, but I'm looking at other people, other groups of families that aren't there for the Instagram moment, and they're just enjoying themselves. And that's what I want for myself. I don't want the anxiety, stress, and the BS of trying to be somebody else. I'm not the best looking guy. I don't give a crap anymore. I like me. It's like, it is what it is. I ain't the bearded, God out here, hey, going down like every time, beard gang. I'm not doing all that. It is what it is. And I'm happy with me. I don't want to be somebody else. I don't want to be the blue checks, the whatever it is, the couples goals. I don't care. I literally let that go because it's just so much problems you can inflict upon yourself trying to chase that. So today she, finally posted some of those photos that you were talking about,
And it's beautiful. I love it. Jelly.
And I was just before that, the night before, she was like, I'm a married woman. I don't know if I should post this. And I had to tell her, like, yo, you're a married woman. You should post this. It is okay. As long as you're not out here on OnlyFans spreading cheeks and doing all types of crazy stuff. That's completely understandable for me. I'm Haitian Brazilian. Maybe it's the Brazilian side. When you go to Brazil, women are not really that prudish with their bodies, right? So I'm not my mindset is not the same as other people. I look at it like it is what it is. Like, especially for young ladies, as you learn, because I grew up with a lot of women around me. I got to give it a caveat. I saw women go through transitions from this awkwardness to I want to be like somebody else. I want to be sexy. I want to be this. I want to be that. And you could tell the struggles that they go through and the anguish, the body dysmorphia, right? All of that stuff going on in their heads. And I just want to recommend to them, like, it's okay to experiment. I saw my goddaughter the other day, for her 16th, when I picked her up from grandma's house, she was looking like a full-on clown. straight up clown. Like she was experimenting with too much makeup, in my opinion. But I couldn't tell her straight out, hey, you look like a clown. I didn't want to do that to her, but we did eventually get her better makeup because she looked like
so you decided to share that on the podcast.
One day she's gonna listen to it. She's like, oh man. I looked at her, I was like, oh God, like, don't do this. My goddaughter, like, I get it. I'm not gonna, be the type of father figure or parental figure or masculine figure that comes in and say you can't wear makeup. You're gonna wear it with or without me, especially behind my back anyways. I may as well kind of see where you're going with this, see, where it works, because women eventually wear makeup at some point. And you gotta learn how to do it. So she's been doing it a little bit too much for me. It looks like a clown. So we ended up buying. I try to look at her because when they're teens, they don't want to do anything. They won't even look at you straight in the eye or something. They don't want to. It's a lot of issues with my goddaughter sometimes. But ultimately, I had to think about it and you know what? I know exactly what she needs. She needs makeup that actually blends with her skin better. She had darker skin tone, kind of like your skin tone, right? Good skin tone. The complexion is good. She don't have a lot of blemishes. You don't need to create this other thing. You just need to let it roll. And I've heard enough. I guess I listened to women enough to know that to be true. So I hit up my wife, and we ended up buying her some better makeup, and she was happy with that. And even afterwards, she hit me back up again. She was really happy, because that's kind of how you connect. You don't connect by telling them not to do something. You connect by helping them on their journey to get somewhere else. So I think that's what guys need to do.
I think it's we don't have that model, right? Thank gosh I had my sister. And with your wife, with Dee, she has sisters as well, multiple sisters. Thank gosh I only have one, because that's the only thing I could take is only one sister, right? We don't have that model, but I do recall, and we were just talking about this before we press record, is that awkwardness, I was really into myself. This is maybe 26, 27-year-old Atlanta, really into myself, the twerking, the knee high, thick, doing the most, right? And I remember all
the cheap mall outfits. I remember it. I'm not gonna let you forget.
all these things. And I remember the awkwardness. I think I was just trying to, I don't know the exact wording for it, but it is a space where you don't realize that transition from girl to womanhood a bit, or identifying how that actually looks, or transitioning, right? And I always, for the most part, have some sort of self-confidence. At least I try to portray it to people, but it is that insecurity that you have, because you don't know, should I post this with this guy, or should I not post this? You don't want to come across too much, And I remember a post years ago. I took a picture years ago, one of the new photographers in my area, and I recall when I was young how men over sexualized me. I wasn't even 12, but because how I'm actually built, if you actually see me walking, whatever, you probably thought I was older than I was. But you always have that constant insecurity, because you want to be sexy, but you want to be too sexy, thinking you're trying to attract too, you know what I mean? It's a lot of inner conflict you have to deal with. But yeah, as you get older, as I have grown older, then, I really don't care as much. I'm going to have things on my body that jiggles, that waistline is not going to be snatched as I would like it to be, but I think it's the position where you just have to be happy with yourself and not overthink, because I think when I was younger, I really overthought a lot of things. Should I do this? Should I do that? Always trying to find some form of acceptance from others versus, myself. And I can only imagine being a wife or being, someone's significant other. You don't want them to feel uncomfortable, right? So you lean more into, well, I don't want to do this if you're not, but honestly, you're not really comfortable with it. So they're leaning into your opinion about, the photo or the video. And I that's the first thing that came on my timeline. That's the video was beautiful. The scene was beautiful. And I always thought Dee, she doesn't need makeup at all. She's just naturally a beautiful girl. But it's just one of those things that we just have to let go. And I think if we let go sooner than later, it would really do us a service, because like you mentioned, we're going to get older. it's just a way of life, you know, and you just have to appreciate where you are now. You're gonna, you know, transition the body, the hips gonna get wider, you know, like things just happen. And out of nowhere, I swear to you, I don't know where the hips came from, but my hips actually got wider. And I don't know how it got wider. It just age, I guess. You know, I don't have it. Yeah, how did it get wider? Right. So it's just one of those things, but you just gotta appreciate where you are. And I think you have to be a little bit more comfortable, because if you don't identify things that you love about yourself, that's when you start looking at images for others, you know, like how it should be, how it should come across, like what I should do. And we're always trying to find some kind of guidance from others, where we should try to figure out that guidance for ourselves.
Yeah. And this transition, to your point, it's a, you know, and to the point of this entire podcast, it's a very expensive transition, or expensive experimentation, because I remember, you know, young ladies or even young men, a lot of time we'd buy stuff that, you know, we thought was cool. We thought was in season, because that's going to make us feel cool. It's going to give us that confidence. It's going to give us like that social capital or social acceptance. Overall, we just ended up buying ourselves into everything that we didn't even need, like from big screen TVs to furnitures that, you know, in college, I was like, how do you have like a, you know, I think some ladies had $700 like beds or something like that in their home. It was weird. It was like everybody was just buying stuff. Guys were buying the rims, and the rims that were kind of like, I forget what they were. Like, it's not vanishing rims. Dang, I'm forgetting the words. The rims that just kind of like keep circling. Like
I know that keeps going. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it was a song on that, right?
Spinners.
Okay.
I think that's what it is. Buy the spinners. Yeah. So
it's crazy expensive, especially for a
woman.
Yeah,
I had like the whole stereo system. So we had to go to Best Buy, hook it up with a brand new stereo system, got to tweak that, got to have the bass, which destroyed the car. But ultimately, you're just trying to buy into this new version that you think you're supposed to be. And I think that's what I rage against most of the time, trying to tell people that it's okay, especially for taller people, taller young men and taller young ladies. They kind of, like, to your point, you're taller. Because of it, it's almost like you look like you should be another age bracket. You technically, that's what people see like from afar, but in truth, it's not true. And you also raise a great point, because I think the game got in trouble for saying it as well. It's like, well, he just said it in truth. Like, it's one of those moments where a guy actually says something and it's decent, you know, and it's hard to kind of like, the game said that? The game, what do we say? He literally said, hey, ladies are jumping into these surgeries, whereas they don't know where their body's going to develop to. That was the point of his post, right? It's like letting people know that it's okay to just allow yourself to grow, because you're getting surgeries way before you know the end product of your body. And it's kind of very odd. It's awkward. Some people have gone to the point where they're getting surgeries, but they're getting reduction of those surgeries, a surgery to
they go back,
to
undo the surgery, and they have complications too with those surgeries.
That lady that lost her kidney because she went in for one thing, and the doctor got in there and got in there else, black market, and you ain't gonna know about it. Like, how you know? You're past.
It's crazy expensive, LG. I'm 5'9", but I wear a lot of heels, or I love my boots. If you ever see me, I just love some boots. And I always wear something with a heel. Rarely you probably see me with some tennis shoe sandals, but I love stuff with heels, because now at the big age that I am, the lovely 33, I love to, not only I walk tall, but I love to feel higher. And it's such a high for me to kind of accept, you know, I'm tall, let me accept it. Let me just, you know, roll with it. And with me, with heels, like just wedges or whatever, I like that feeling. But for also, it's expensive because I have a bigger shoe size. I have a bigger, pant size, right? So it's more fabric. So it's gonna cost more in terms of those things. And you mentioned about experimentation. So as a chocolate woman, a lot of brands before Fenty and these other brands are now, inclusive, right? A lot of brands wasn't really matching a lot of dark women. So I used to go to, YouTube University a lot and blend, foundations and blend, different things that kind of match, my skin tone, or just experiment with my hair. That was a thing because I was transitioning from the chemicals to the natural. I had locks years ago. So there's like so many things you kind of trying to find yourself, like what works, what doesn't work, especially if you have natural hair, you're spending at least 10 grand before you even jump into, anything, because you're just trying to figure out what works for your hair, what doesn't. And unfortunately, you buy these products and invest in these products, and sometimes they just don't work. I'll say at least 50% of the time, it just don't work. So a lot of women are really like invested when it comes to like products, or invested when it comes to makeup, because it works for them and that's what they stick to. And as a tall woman, I try to find like, okay, this brand works, this doesn't. I know what looks good on me because I invested the time in the money. But it is one of those things that if you don't try to figure out what works for you, it is a catch-22, because you have to spend the money to try to find out what works. Especially, in the heightened age of image and social media and stuff like that. But I do want to place some form of cautious is don't lean too much into the image, and try to figure out what really works for you internally as well, because a lot of brands try to feed into our insecurities and not so much what we really need. So that's something you have to kind of have that discussion for yourself.
And it's not only a cost that women go through, but it's also costs men go through too. We buy the tennis shoes, we buy the cars, we buy the status singles, we buy the watches, or, I guess in this day and age, we're buying the hats. That's what I do now. Like I get the hats. Like I gotta rock the hats. And it's all we're all buying into these things, and it really kind of hurts us in the long run if we're not figuring out who we really are and what really makes us tick. And to, at least as a man, married man now, and I can look back and look even to share information with my goddaughter, I'll let her know straight up, like, be a woman, be who you are, try, experiment if you need to, and stay safe. It's the best thing I could tell you. But for you to kind of hide who you, that essence of you as a woman doesn't make a lot of sense. A lot of other cultures don't do that. They don't imprint that upon people. And I think for Black women, especially in this day and age, it's very hard. You can't be too sexy. You can't be too plain. You can't be too this. You can't be too that. There's so many of these things going on. And I'm just like, be you. Whatever it is that is you, be you, as long as you're safe, as long as you're not going too far to the extreme. But at the end of the day, you're okay. And as long as you're not wearing too much makeup like a clown. That's the only thing I don't like. Hey, I know you just jumped into here. Do you have any ideas? I guess, what would you think about the idea of imagery and money?
Oh, wow. Definitely a relationship there. As we were talking, I just had a million thoughts go through my mind. And I have some old reliables, if we can call it that, right? And in terms of resources that I point to in these discussions. And the first one that comes to mind is Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGruy, where she talks about basically the PTSD impact of slavery and beyond up to present day on Black people, and how that trauma is passed on generationally, and how that trauma influences how we show up and how we interact in our entire world, right? So not just from a money perspective, but from a socialization perspective, from an education perspective, from a self-esteem perspective. One of the, I think, very famous examples, I actually saw this kind of circulating on TikTok last week, was how Black women will, for lack of better phrasing, not take compliments for their children, because if the child is complimented in the time of slavery, then that child would be potentially taken away from the mother or abused. And of course, that slavery environment. So if the slave master will go, that little girl is cute or beautiful or whatever, then the mother would instinctively say, oh no, she's just all right. She's okay. She's not that special. And that behavior we have unknowingly kind of duplicated through the generations, and that if member outside of our family, or maybe a white person, was to compliment the child, whether it be a boy or a girl, that the mom would then automatically come in and say, oh no, you know, they're not that special, to take the attention off of them. And so thinking about what that does as a child, not understanding, well, why is my mom like hating on me, right? And what that does for their self-esteem growing up, as it relates to how they interface with the world, particularly the white world, right? We look at, and I'm just, you know, coming in at the end of you guys' conversation, but as we look at like what are beauty standards, you know, what is acceptable, what is considered professional, right? And so we look at, okay, how does this work in real life society? How does this work in corporate society? And so there's so much to unpack there, and just, I really get excited. I nerd out on Dr. DeGroy's stuff because I can see it manifest in so many different lenses and just how they show up every day.
I did the black like kind of like those moments where you think about like that is some deep stuff. That's some deep ideas, especially in the Haitian culture. We do have times like that where our parents or and it's weird to explain to other people, because I think other people that's not Haitian, they want to know, but our parents are ruthless. Like they're savvy for their words. Like their words have like no filter at all. And I guess in just now we could say it, but back in the day, they would call you a dog, a pig, a cow. Like it's just an easy scenario. In Creole,
they still do.
Yeah, they'll lambaste upon people. And to your point, those type of like characteristics, those times that when you see your parents, like your aunts and your uncles talking about somebody else, you end up not doing anything because you hear so much about that other person sticking up for themselves. Oh, who do they think they are getting good grades? Who do they think they are getting this good job? Who do you think they are getting this house? So therefore, as a kid, while you're listening to this, you can internalize it and say to yourself, like, I guess I don't need to get that house. I don't need to get this thing, because if I do get these things, they're going to talk about me too. So we're living in that world, to your point, where a lot of people are, parents need to definitely watch what they say to and around kids, and how they say it or how they interact. Because it's not just the kid that grows, the parent needs to also mature and change as well. Because we can't talk about each other in such negative light. You can't, like, I remember my cousin would say around her child, which is my goddaughter, is like, hey, Lawrence is in school too much or something like that. Oh, he's broke. So the kid one day would come up to me and say, hey, I heard you're broke. Like out of nowhere. Like, I'm like, where'd you learn this stuff from? Like, oh, you're just always in school. What? Like, you don't know information about this, but you're regurgitating because that's what you heard. And because that's what you heard, maybe now she might internalize it. Like, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to be that person that somebody else makes fun of. And that's problematic and that's deep, but man, that's some stuff. I don't know if you want to close this out, Lana, to just kind of do look at it. She's like, I don't care about this. I want to get to the interview.
No, no, it's a great conversation. Even for Rahkim to connect the generational, generational trauma of self-esteem, how we used to relate it to protection and how it transitioned into more of the self-image of women and little girls. So that's something I never thought about as well. So that was a great connection. But this is a good short.
You're the host. You could do everything.
Oh, I am the host. So thank you guys so much. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another great episode of TFG. It was a short. It was a great episode, but it's something enlightening. I hope that you guys take something from this. You can find me on the IG streets at Atlanta_Elson. What about you, LG?
Yes, you could find me at the Neighborhood Finance Guy on IG, and also in the internet, in the interweb. So do not misspell it, and you can find us at all times. But you'll pass it over to Rahkim. What's going on? Where can they find you?
And I'm everywhere at Rahkim Sabree, no hyphens, underscores, or periods. There are a lot of fakes out there, so I have to throw that disclosure out into the world.
And you're not selling any Forex to anybody?
No day trading?
Like you hit people in the DMs, like, hey, Forex.
I'm not sliding in people's DMs. Yeah, that's not me.
All right, cool. Well, we're gonna wrap it up.
All right, TFG, we're out.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Griot podcast, powered by the Wealth Builders Collective.